From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 530 News.
I've been through a lot of trauma, and you can always change your life.
Tonight, we take a closer look at one of the key areas where Governor Greg Gianforte hopes to invest state dollars. And we talk with a Billings judge and participant who say it works. Plus, a day of history on the high school sports scene as the first all-female wrestling meet in our area is now underway in Shepherd. But first, authorities search for two murder suspects in Billings. A Capitol Riot suspect from Montana is now behind bars. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us on your Thursday. I'm Jeanelle Slade. Well, tonight, a Dillon man has been charged in connection with the riot earlier this month at the U.S. Capitol building. MTN's John Amy went to Dillon and brings us the details.
A business owner here in Dillon has become the first person in Montana to be charged in connection with the January 6th storming of the U.S. Capitol. According to federal charging documents, 52-year-old Henry Munzer of Dillon faces charges of unlawful entry to restricted building or grounds and disorderly conduct. The affidavit alleges Munzer was among the protesters who forced their way into the U.S. Capitol building while Congress was verifying the Electoral College vote. The FBI alleges Munzer was seen on television news video inside the Capitol and also appeared in a YouTube video where he allegedly admitted to being inside the Capitol. Munzer was arrested on January 18th here in Dillon and detained in Missoula, where he appeared in federal district court there. Munzer, who is the owner of Dillon Appliance Repair Shop, painted a mural on his building last year, which espouses some strong political feelings and some conspiracy theories. The murals on his building certainly created a lot of conversation and controversy among citizens in Dillon.
I appreciate the fact that in the United States we have First Amendment rights and people can put anything they want on their own building, but it's a bad example for Dillon. I don't agree with it at all, and I'd like to see it gone.
Munzer was expected to be released from custody after his hearing Thursday. In Dillon, John Amy, MTN News.
Thanks, John. And attempts to contact Munzer for comment about this case were unsuccessful. Well, tonight authorities are asking for your help to find two people tied to two separate murders. The U.S. Marshals Service in Billings is seeking 26-year-old Lorenzo Harris as a person of interest. Harris is 5 feet 10 inches tall with tattoos on his face. He is wanted for felony warrants and as a person of interest in a homicide. If you have any information about Harris's whereabouts, call Marshals Service or the Billings Police Dispatch. And a $1,000 reward is now being offered as Billings police renew a call for any credible information leading to an arrest in the murder of Manuel Martinez. Martinez was shot and killed on November 30th near the intersection of 4th Street West and Broadwater Avenue. That's outside the Evangelical United Methodist Church, where he was known to frequent. A man was seen fleeing on foot. Now, that suspect is described as a male, slender, around 6 feet tall, wearing a black hoodie, dark pants, white shoes, carrying a backpack, and wearing a hat. Well, at the state capitol, Montana lawmakers are considering a bill that would stop voters from registering on Election Day. MTN's Jonathan Ambarian reports on what that change would mean.
Currently, Montana residents can still register to vote at county election offices on the morning before Election Day and on Election Day itself. House Bill 176 would push that deadline back to 5 p.m. the preceding Friday. The House State Administration Committee held a hearing Thursday on the bill, sponsored by Republican Representative Sharon Grief of Florence. She said the bill wasn't intended to limit people's ability to vote, but that passing it would ensure people have confidence in the election system.
We are blessed with the privilege of voting, but we also must accept responsibility for that privilege. Elections don't pop up out of the blue and surprise us.
Montana Secretary of State Christy Jacobson testified in favor of the bill, calling it an election integrity measure. Supporters said same-day registration puts too much burden on local election officials.
It's extremely hard to put the information of all of the voters into the system get their ballots counted and keep the numbers correct while you're still registering people to vote the same day you're having an election.
But opponents said Election Day registration has worked as intended since the state approved it in 2005.
Same-day voter registration has functioned well and has allowed for the increasingly high percentage of registered voters who are actually voting in our elections. It has not caused fraud. It has not caused errors.
They said removing the option to register on the day would especially affect groups like Native Americans, students, and those with disabilities or receiving long-term care.
Please don't make it harder for these people to vote. Late registration has been a godsend for them, and we do all we can to make sure that people can exercise the franchise.
The legislature put a ballot measure before Montana voters in 2014 to end same-day registration. That measure failed, 57% to 43%. In Helena, Jonathan Amberian, MTN News.
Thanks, Jonathan. Now, leaders say about 60,000 voters registered on Election Day between 2006 and 2018. The data for 2020 has not yet been finalized. Well, in a string of votes early today, Republicans on the Montana House Judiciary advanced several controversial bills on abortion and transgender issues. The panel approved bills that would ban abortions in Montana after 20 weeks of pregnancy and that greatly restrict the use of abortion-inducing drugs. It also voted for a bill that says if a woman is considering an abortion, her physician must offer her the chance to see an ultrasound or listen to the heartbeat of the fetus. And the panel approved one last bill related to abortion to put a referendum on the November 2022 ballot that says a fetus born alive during an abortion is a legal person. Another bill passed by the panel bans transgender athletes at Montana schools and colleges from sports teams not aligned with their sex at birth. All bills passed on party line votes with Republicans in favor, except the last one, which was opposed by one Republican. Democratic opponents say some of the bills are unconstitutional and harmful to the state, but Republicans disagreed.
The bill also puts our economy at risk and opens us up to costly litigation. And a similar law was estimated to cost North Carolina $3.76 billion, that's billion, before they repealed their law.
Please remember, the constitutionality of something is subjective until it gets in front of the Supreme Court. So we have no idea how the courts can rule on things that are coming before us. All we can do is what we assert is correct, because all of us are interpreters of the Constitution as well.
Now, those 5 bills now head to the House floor where they're expected to pass. The committee also plans to vote Friday on a bill that bars medical procedures for transgender youth. Well, over the next few weeks, Montana legislators will turn their attention to the state budget. Much of Governor Greg Gianforte's proposed budget is geared toward drug and alcohol treatment inside and outside prison walls. Well, tonight, Q2 Chief Photographer Paul Humphrey and I take a closer look at where a good portion of that money will focus.
I, Greg Gianforte,
do solemnly swear
that I... Yellowstone County District Court Judge Mary Jane Nisley says she doesn't know why Governor Greg Gianforte requested her to deliver his oath of office.
It was nice to be asked. It was kind of a surprise.
But she does know they have a strong mutual interest.
What I know for certain is that the governor believes in recovery and alternatives to incarceration.
Since 2010, you have built a successful treatment court that helps people suffering with drug and alcohol addictions rebuild their lives and become productive members of our communities.
A personal passion for Judge Nisley, who presides over 2 of the current 5 treatment courts in Yellowstone County. The courts focus on sobriety, recovery, and future stability as an alternative to jail or even prison.
You know, it's a different model, and so it's designed to see them consistently and provide them accolades, incentives.
And their success is proven. Judge Nisley points to one study that shows 3 years after graduation, 96% of the highest risk felony drug and alcohol impaired graduates had no felony arrests.
So that's huge compared to traditional criminal justice stats with that population.
In 2018, I ran into somebody, and by the grace of God, I didn't kill anybody or myself.
Amanda Boyer was raised in Fort Belknap and is a veteran whose life has been filled with trauma. She's always felt alone.
500 days.
Today, after 2 solid years, she's nearing graduation with more than 500 confirmed days of sobriety, and says Judge Nisley has given her an incredible opportunity to change her life.
500 days. I don't think I've done anything consistent for 500 days.
It is not. This is not easy.
Constant drug tests, multiple groups and treatments, getting and holding down a job as a felon. These participants are held accountable as they find rides and fork out funds to help pay for the process. And not everyone can handle it.
This is rigorous. It's very rigorous. It's like boot camp on the ground.
I really had to attack that shame and really set boundaries.
There are currently more than 40 treatment courts across the state, but they're doing work well beyond their county borders.
We don't have the judicial resources and the judges to have a drug court in every single county.
Even pre-COVID, the courts reached out with telehealth, connecting like participants with like services and the right treatments. The pandemic has just pushed the program even further.
Hi guys. I know that we also are participating in a big teleservice project with the Center for Court Innovation to connect treatment courts and treatment court participants from more rural Montana areas where they haven't been able to have a full continuum of treatment.
The opposite of addiction is connection.
Both Boyer and Judge Nisley agree that it's the strong local, state, and federal drug court resources and connections that make this work.
Yes, you can do it, guys.
And the cost benefit of that connection can be measured.
I've watched this money now for 20 years and kept track of this money. The cost of a participant going through drug court is approximately $5,000. When you look at the cost of incarceration and you recognize that nearly everyone gets out of incarceration at some point and they have not had significant treatment while being incarcerated, the cost savings is astronomical.
When you invest in people, I think you invest in community.
We love these courts, and I think that's judges. The reason that we love them is, the recidivism is low. You're making a change, a lasting change for families, a lasting change for the participants.
After this program and all the stuff that it's given me back, I want to be able to give back to people so that they don't ever feel alone.
A cost savings while also saving lives. And part of that funding will go to absorb 6 federally funded startup drug courts in which federal funding expires after this year. The Gianforte Family Foundation has contributed to those startup programs in the past. Well, up next on tonight's MTN 530 News on Q2, it was an exciting day for students at Lockwood Intermediate School receiving shiny new books for an important cause. And still ahead, we hit the mats for a historic day in Shepherd.
We started off a little warmer than average, but just struggled into the afternoon. 32 was the high today. We haven't added any precipitation, but that could change tonight. Details coming up.